Sairam, dear brother. Sairam, dear brother Fize Mohammad, on behalf of Sri Satya Sai program for awareness of human values and educare, we would like to thank you for sparing your valuable time and to have your conversation with us today, sharing your thoughts, ideas, and suggestions on how to adapt human values in our day to day life. This is our first amongst the series of chat sessions we would be having, which we named it as Journey from Unconscious to Conscious Living, by which we would like to listen from many experienced devotees like you to elevate ourselves. Let's recall what are the five human values that Swami has taught us: truth, right action, peace, love, and non-violence. What Swami has to say about these five human values, let's hear from him.
Love is my form, truth is my breath, this is my food. Love is my form, truth is my breath, this is my food. My life is my message, expansion is my life. My life is my message, my life is my message, expansion is my life. No reason for love, no reason for love, no bad, no death. Prema Satya Ananda, Shanti Satya Ananda.
Thank you, Swami. What a lovely message you have given us. Now, with this in mind, let's proceed further, Brother Faiz. Devotees like me have a lot of opportunities to recognize the inherent human values and easily apply them when we are amongst Sai devotees. But once we step out into the world, the fellow human beings we interact with, either professionally or personally, are so different that a need arises to consciously apply the inherent human values that Swami taught us in every moment of our life. Devotees listening to this chat session would also be able to understand and have action plans to apply these human values in their day to day activities. Welcome again, sir. When we were trying to identify the theme for today's session, we decided to pick the theme as family and how we would adapt human values when we deal with our family. When we talk about family, relationships come forth like father, mother, husband, wife, son, daughter, son in law, etc. We would like you to share your thoughts on how the relationship between the family members from the human values perspective. So please let me start with my first question as what is family means for you?
First of all, brother, I offer my most loving and humble pranams at the divine lotus feet of my dear Mother Sai. I thank Swami for giving me the opportunity to share and to receive his love through this divine interaction. My family was Swami's gift of love to myself and others. It was in 1983 when asked by an elder in the interview to get Brother Fize married, Swami told me, let parents decide and I will bless. So, with his divine guidance, Swami blessed my marriage and shared information valuable as to the composition of the family, how many children I would have. And so he blessed my marriage about 30 years ago. So I consider it his blessing and his boon to me to give me a family which I believe that I have been involved in to shatter my ego, to move from selfishness to selflessness, from I to we. That has been a very joyous, at times challenging and frustrating experience. But that family means to me unity, togetherness, sharing, loving, compromising, so that each and every member grows day to day. That is what family means to me.
Sairam sir, the lovely words you used, selfishness to selflessness. That's a great transition, when you get married and all that, and especially compromise. Lovely words, sir, you have used. Now, from the inherent human values that each one of us, how do you see the role and responsibility of an adult or an elder in the family?
Well, you know, brother, as you highlighted before, the family structure can be parents, children, grandparents, and other members that make up the family that may be living under one particular household. But if I should dwell specifically on the parents, Swami has said the most important and the most powerful influence a parent can have on a child is to be a good example. He says that you have to practice what you are telling the children to put into practice in their daily lives. You cannot tell the child, don't lie, and you are lying. Don't smoke, and you are smoking. Don't cheat, and you are cheating. So, the most powerful influence is to be a good example. A child will follow not so much what you say, but what you do. And I remember Swami gave a very beautiful example where a child has just come back from Balvika's class, and the value taught in the class was truth. The telephone rang, and the child went to answer the phone and came back and told his father, Daddy, Mr. John is on the phone to you. And the father tells the child, go and tell him I'm not at home. So the child goes to the phone and says, Daddy, say he's not at home. So this is a very destructive and psychologically damaging behavior that we as parents should avoid. Be a good example for your child, and they will follow in your footsteps. There is no more powerful way of practicing and disseminating human values than that. So, both the parents have to be very, very mindful that this is done in the home. And also the elders, by the way we behave and interact with one another, our children are always watching us. How we speak to one another in the home, how we solve conflicts, how we deal with our neighbors, how we interact while driving on the road. All of these things impact the minds of our children. So we have to always be vigilant at all times to be a good example to our children.
Sairam sir, the words you used are lovely. Practice what you preach. That's great. And children are watching us as elders. They are watching us, and they are going to, repeat what we are going to say. That's lovely. That
And brother, just to add on, children look upon their parents as heroes. They look upon them as real role models because they see in their parents what they want to become in terms of human values. And so, if we crush that belief system in them by doing things contrary to how they look at us, it can damage the relationship and they can begin to even lose faith in humanity because there's no, very, very important, there's no unity in thought, word, and deed. So, parents, we have a sacred, serious responsibility which begins in the home and then overflows into society. Unity in thought, word, and deed.
unity in thought, word, and deed. That's very good, sir. And then what you're trying to convey is, in the human values, we always say one should be an exemplar. Parents should be an exemplar to the children, so that they listen to you, because they understand that what you're preaching, you're practicing. And Swami is watching us. Swami is always watching us. We should be very conscious of it. Thank you so much, sir. That's lovely. Now, uh, from the inherent human values that each one of us have, how do you see the role and responsibilities of younger ones in the family? Again, towards the family as well as towards the elders. What is their role?
Well, brother, each family member needs to have responsibilities and duties in the home because the family as a unit is comprised of many individuals as described before. So, at a tender age, especially the children should be taught responsibility, duties at home, good habits. And this can be like, for example, a simple thing like making their beds every day, helping mommy in the kitchen with the chores, helping in the yard if it is gardening, contributing in some way to the in some ways into the running of the family. And not only that, showing respect and reverence to the elders, how we speak to them, addressing them in a loving and respectful manner, valuing their opinions. So, if we train and teach our children at a tender age to have responsibility and to take ownership of those responsibilities and also be accountable when they do not perform them, then it allows them to become self reliant and independent. So, for example, if a child is supposed to be making their beds every day and 2 or 3 days it is not done, then there has to be accountability. Maybe you probably would want to remove a television show that they like as a form of showing them that there are consequences to their actions, both good and bad. So everybody in the home should contribute to the betterment and running of the home, but the children especially should be taught at a tender age the various duties, responsibilities, and habits that they should take ownership and be responsible for the smooth running and harmonious running of the home.
Sairam, sir. So, from both sides, from the elder side as well as from the children's side, you beautifully explained, how each one plays a role, especially implementing human values in our day-to-day interaction with each other. Now, having said that, could you kindly share with us how you are bringing forth the inherent human values when you deal with your family? What is your experience when you are dealing with your family? So we would like to hear that from you.
Brother, one of the most effective ways that our family have practiced, inculcated, and continuing to integrate human values in our lives is through the family satsang. It's the second of the 9 point code of conduct. And just to give you a little idea, Swami had instructed me in an interview to be an SSE teacher. He said, teach the children, even before I got married. So I've been an SSE teacher for the last 30 years. And when my children were born at a very tender age, I started taking them with me to the class. So at a tender age, they were exposed to human values. But in our home, we had an appointment with God, as we would say, every single Sunday at a fixed time of about 45 minutes. We designated that time for family satsang. Each member of the family had a particular responsibility. The children would be responsible for preparing the altar, lighting the diya, getting the flowers, making sure that area was clean. The parents would ensure that that is done as well. And so we would sit together and have this family satsang. And the family satsang in Trinidad at that time, because we had three major religions of Muslim, Christian, and Hindu, we would begin with a Muslim prayer, a Christian prayer, and a Hindu prayer. Then we would sing devotional songs dedicated to Christianity, Islam, and Hinduism. And then we would have a short period of silent sitting. Then every week it was the responsibility of one of the children to research and do a value-based message short. Thereafter, we would have arti, where the children would do arti to the parents and touch their feet, and then we'll have the closing prayers. But thereafter, we used to have, after the satsang was finished, my wife would make a pot of tea, and then we'd have a little bit of cake and sweet bread, and we would sit in the living room and have a very informal, loving discussion. Now, how did that family satsang bring about human values? Well, let us diagnose each of the activity, and you will see how it really, really allowed the human values to be awakened and manifested. The first thing is the family that prays together stays together. And this was a beautiful example of that. Once a week, without fail, this was an appointment with Swami. Secondly, when we do the Muslim, Christian, and Hindu prayers, it created a universal appeal and outlook that call him by any name, God is one, as Swami says. Then we sang devotional songs. So they would learn, we all learned to appreciate one another's faith. Unity of faiths was respected. When we did this silent sitting for 3 to 5 minutes, we allowed one another, and especially the children, to go within and connect with the divinity that they truly are. Then when each child on different weeks would give a value-based message, it developed the ability of self-confidence and speaking in the public. It allowed them also to have the discipline to go and research and present in a loving and respectful manner. And then when they do the arti, they show reverence and respect to the parents. When we do the arti to Swami, we are picturing that flame is burning away all our bad habits, vials, evil tendencies, and we offering Swami the ashes of its destruction. So many human values were being awakened in the family satsang. But more importantly as well, or in addition to, when we used to come together informally having a little chat, we valued what every member of the family had to say. So when it came to the children, they were given the opportunity to share their perspective on certain things happening in the home because they were active participants in the decision making of the weekly activities in the home. And just to give you an idea of how the children at times became our gurus, one day my eldest daughter, Amrita, when it was her time to speak, she said, Daddy, you did a very wrong thing while going to Balvikas. So I said, Amrita, what did I do? She said, Daddy, you ran a red light. And as a guru, that is a bad example. And I folded my hands and I said, I am so sorry, my dear child, that I made a mistake and that will never happen again. And so the children, together with the parents, we helped one another to become bigger, better, and stronger in human values. Not only that, brother, once per month, the entire family, the Mohammed family, we would pray together, we would have fun together, we would do seva together, we would meditate together. And once a month, we would all get together in the kitchen and make sandwiches together with drinks. And then we would go down to a particular street in our neighborhood, and the children themselves would give a sandwich and a drink to someone in need or someone that was hungry. And it showed them two human values. One, they developed or cultivated the quality of giving back to society, serving society, but at the same time appreciating what it is they had. Very, very important human values were learned as a family. And brother, these human values remained with them throughout their lives. I remember one of our SSC trainers making a very powerful statement. She said, if you give a family a box of groceries, you may give them food for 2 weeks. But when a teacher, a guru, awakens a value in a child, that value remains with them for their lives and they pass it on for generations to come. There's no greater saver than that. And she said, if you cut an apple, you can check the number of seeds in the apple, but you can never check or know or gauge the number of apples that would come when you plant that one seed. So, similarly, when we awaken human values in our children and others, that value we will never know how impactful it can be in this generation and others to follow. So that is human values and how impactful it can be. So in making this statement, my two daughters went abroad to study. Today they are 28 and 29. And a couple of years ago, my eldest daughter, Amrita, sends me a picture with 400 tins of food. Just to show you in this example how the human values from a tender age, it reverberated throughout their life and influenced their actions up to now. And I said, Amrita, what is this 400 tins of food about? She said, Daddy, for Halloween, when I took a group of my friends from university, and instead of collecting chocolates, we collected tins of food, and she gave it to the nearby soup kitchen. And it warmed my heart to see this child with the human values manifesting it in daily life. My second daughter, Shivana, also in Canada, she started teaching the immigrants English, giving of her time and resources. And my dear brother, only recently, something that was so touching, it moved me to tears. My second daughter sent me a picture of an elephant in Africa, baby elephant with part of the trunk severed. And when she sent me the picture, I said, Shivana, what is this? And she said, Daddy, they were poaching, and this little baby elephant got away, but they severed one of the trunks. And every month I donate towards the helping of this little baby elephant. And she shows me a picture where they are actually taking a big bottle of milk and feeding this baby elephant. And it really, really brought tears to my eyes, brother, to see the children inculcating these human values. But a true wake up call happened one day when my daughter going to the University of Waterloo, we wanted to get a Sai Baba Center close to where the university is so she can have kinship and be able to go weekly to satsangs, but we were not successful in doing so. And then one day I had a conversation with her and I said, Amrita, we have not been able to locate a center for you to go. And Amrita told me, she said, Daddy, don't you have any faith in us? When you taught us Balvikas and gave us a foundation in human values at a tender age and through the young adult program, she says, I do not need a Sai Baba center to connect to Sai Baba. Every person I meet is a form of Sai Baba. And then I bowed my head and I said, thank you, child. What a powerful lesson. So, brother, these are some of the ways in which the human values through the family satsang extended into their lives, and now they practice it in their day to day life.
Sairam brother, I'm taking a little few seconds after your answers because I'm trying to digest. So lovely, it's so nice to hear from you that I'm trying to bring it to myself that I should also do the same thing. Lovely, sir. And especially when you said the family that prays together stays together. Oh my gosh, that's a great sentence that you made. And then sharing, sharing is caring, especially in such family satsang, where each one is trying to share. Then they will open up. The children's many times, they are little, tied up with their own feelings, and in this satsang, they can share and be open with the parents and all that. That's so lovely. And that's where I think your children proved that even if they are away from their family, they still adopt what you have practiced in when they were, very young kids and all that. You are blessed, sir, that Swami has given such a wonderful children. But there are possibilities that in some families, the children are susceptible to peer pressure. When they go, as long as they are in the family and with the family and with the side devotees, they are fine, they are more comfortable. They practice what Swami has taught us regarding the five human values. But they slowly, when they step out, what happens is there is always a peer pressure. What is your advice on to children with the families to handle this peer pressure?
So, brother, just to make a disclaimer, although my daughters, they had a very good solid foundation in human values, but being exported and transported into a different culture from Trinidad to Canada at a tender age, they were exposed, just as you said, to different personalities, different cultures, different belief systems that sometimes clash with the practicing of human values. So they also went through their challenges just like anybody else. But I think some of the ways in which we can combat those peer pressure challenges, and I remember Swami saying in one of the World Youth Conferences that young adults should not be influenced by bad behavior to become bad. He says, why cannot the opposite happen? Why cannot you be so strong that you become an agent of change to transform bad into good rather than be influenced by the bad to change your good to bad? So that's an important point. We need to be firm, we need to be strong because we know what we are about as young adults. We have been anchored in the human values and we know that everybody is striving to be happy, but the best way to be happy, the most effective way to try and be happy all the time is to practice the human values. So that's an important aspect of dealing with peer pressure. The second thing is the relationship with the parents and the children. So if the child or the young adult is experiencing peer pressure at the school, dialogue and discussion with the parents goes a long way. And parenting can take many different forms. When your children are small, you tell them, don't do this, don't do that, don't put your hand in the fire, and so on. But as the child grows and becomes a young adult, the parenting process changes. Not so much more by telling, but more like spiritual coaching. Because now you're dealing with adults. You're dealing with young adults, 19, 20, 21. And sometimes when you tell them, don't do something, that's the very thing that they're going to do. So sometimes spiritual coaching is good. So if one of your children comes home and she said, Dad, we went out with some friends and they were influencing and encouraging me to take a drink or to eat meat or go against, what I would normally practice. Have a discussion with the child. How did you feel about that? How are you reconciling that with what Swami has said? And guide them along that way. What what then do you think is the best thing you should do for your spiritual transformation? So once you have that kind of discussion with your child and they come to the decision with your guidance, they can hold firm and practice their human values in the midst of insurmountable peer pressure. The other thing that can help a young adult, and I remember this happening with my children, they try to associate with friends of like mindedness. So in the university or in the class or where they're rooming, etc., they may find somebody with similar values, similar goals. And so when they associate with those good company, it strengthens them, makes them stronger to deal with the peer pressure out there. So also it is also good if this is possible to get a mentor, somebody who can you can go to as a guide, who can help you to navigate situations, especially problematic and conflicting ones. So these are some of the ways in which we can deal with the peer pressure.
Lovely, sir. So your message is the way you deal with your children depends on what stage of life they are in. The way you deal with them when they are young is different to, when they reach their adulthood, when they are in young adults, the way you interact with them is very good. As Swami has said that, tell me your friends and I'll tell you what you are. So beautifully you said that try to encourage your children, especially when they are stepped out of your house, to be with the people who have the same frequency and the same mental attitude. That's a beautiful way of saying, and have a one-to-one interaction with them when such occasions comes. That's a beautiful message you have mentioned, sir. So this is very nice to hear between children and parents and all that. So we would like to ask you a question on how do you consciously apply these human values when you interact with your parents or your uncles or aunts or your friends or your siblings?
Well, brother, from even a parent's perspective, Swami has said that devotion, reverence, and respect to parents is really the number one sadhana that we should perform. Swami has said the mother is the goddess who has given us this body, this blood, this individuality, and as such, she deserves all the veneration and worship that we can shower at her lotus feet. Swami also warns us, do not be rude and raw to them. Obey them, for they know much more of the world and its dangers than you do. And you may be able to repay back any debt, he says, but the debt you owe to your mother, you will never, never be able to repay. Swami has also said getting the blessings of your parents is like getting the blessings of God Himself. When a mother or a father blesses a child, it is as if God has blessed that child. And Swami has also said, how you treat your parents is how your children are going to treat you. So it is also a karmic cycle that happens. So always show respect for parents and elders. Speak to them lovingly, sweetly, and softly. Look for ways and means to always serve them. For example, you may have a grandmother or a grandfather in the home that needs aids to help to eat or to walk or to have their daily activities. Those are opportunities we can use to help. So that is very, very important to do as much as we can to our elders and our parents. And brother, very, very quickly, I'll just share this example. to drive home this point. I came across a story recently where a husband, a son, wife, and a son were living in a home. So, family of three, mother, father, and son. But the father had become old. Mother had passed away, so they brought the father home to take care of him. But what they used to do, they used to separate the father from the family because he was very clumsy while eating. Food would drop off the floor, drinks will be spilled, he would soil his clothes. And so the son got very annoyed after a while and put him in a corner with a little wooden bowl so that he does not disrupt or make the place unclean. But the little son, he was observing. So one day he started to make a little wooden bowl. And the father asked him one day, he said, "Son, why are you making this wooden bowl?" He said, "Dad, I am making this little wooden bowl so that when you get older, I can also put you in a corner so that you won't disturb the harmony of the family." And this touched the heart of the parents so much that they brought back their father to eat at the same table they eat. And no matter how much food was spilled, how much drink was spilled, how much clothes was spilled, they continued to love him and serve him. So it is important when we were small and like a little child and helpless, our elders and parents took care of us. When they have become now helpless, to that point, it is our duty and responsibility with love, with care, with concern to do the same.
Oh, what a story there you had shared with us. So lovely. Yes, what you do, you will get it back. It's a beautiful way of, we learn a lot from our children, especially on human values and all that, because thanks to Balvikas, when they learn from their gurus and they share it with us and all that, and then what we have to, how we have to respect our parents. Now, sir, we have dealt with the children, we have dealt with our friends, parents, and all that. My question is, keeping the human values, inherent human values in mind, how do we sustain the relations with our spouse even after 20 or 30 years of married life? I'm not talking about the initial phase of life. We know it's all a honeymoon. But what happens? How do we ensure that we apply these human values with our spouse even after 20 or 30 years of life, married life?
So, brother, that is a challenging and difficult question. So, Brother Fize have been married for the last 30 years. And one of the greatest blessings in my life is my wife. And simply because Swami chose the partner that I have to spend this incarnation with. And to me, that is a great, great blessing. So I know whatever he is doing, it is for my own self transformation. The purpose of marriage, of two souls coming together and then children, is to shatter the ego. As we said, before marriage there was I, after marriage there's we, and then after, when children come, is we. But it's more moving from selfishness to selflessness more when children come. So you have now got to be moving your consciousness and thinking about another person. So again, Swami, in ingredients of the marriage, he talks about adjustment and understanding, because now you have other players in the family to deal with, namely your wife first. So that is very, very important to, to understand and to put into practice, that these souls have come together to help each other on the spiritual path to shatter the ego and to feel that oneness. Now, how is that practiced in daily life? It is beautiful to see. I remember in the interview, the wedding interview that I had, Swami told me he had given a little talk on marriage, and he said WIFE. If you get a bad wife, is worries invited forever. If you get a good wife, is wisdom invited forever. And I know for sure that I am growing in wisdom every day because of the good wife that I have. But some of the things that have worked, brother, for us over the years in practicing human values in making our marriage a unified and a harmonious one is we've always believed in loving communication. If something happens, especially conflicting, where there could be a misunderstanding or misinterpretation, let's come together and discuss. So when the meeting of the minds come, we can resolve whatever misunderstandings or misinterpretations there could have been. The other thing, never take each other for granted. Sometimes we live with one another for so long that we said, okay, my wife will always be there, my husband will always be there. We take things for granted. And what I mean by this is, an example can be, if you're in the mall and you see a nice ornament or uh, flowers that your wife really likes, even though it's not a special occasion, buy it, bring it home, and present it to her. No special occasion. I just thought about you. I thought you would like this, and you present it to her. That's a wonderful expression of caring, kindness, and thoughtfulness. And this is what is the glue sometimes that can keep the marriage together. So don't wait for occasions or special occasions to do things. Make every day a special day. Another thing that has worked for us is do things together. Now that the children are abroad in Canada, it's my wife and myself alone. So we pray together, we look at movies together, we take drives together, and sometimes we compromise. If my wife wants to look at a particular movie that I really not interested in, I will still sit with her. And vice versa, if I want to watch T20 cricket and she doesn't like it, she said, come, I will watch a little bit with you. So we work together to help one another so that the marriage becomes unified and harmonious. So that compromising is important. Then, brother, we have a rule in our marriage. If there's a quarrel, if there's a misunderstanding, it should never go beyond the sunset. So, whatever it takes, it's going to be resolved. Because if it is not, and too much time passes, with every additional day, it can fester and become to a point where it's difficult to reconcile, and then all kinds of bad and negative thoughts can occupy the mind because of so much misconceptions and conjurings in the mind. So it is very, very important to bear that in mind. And then the marriage vows is that we do everything together. We consult together. We work together as a team. We ask each other's advice. Before you undertake an activity, make sure you get your wife's permission or her discussion. And brother, over the years, I have found that my wife is a very intuitive lady. What men are not able to pick up generally and ordinarily, a woman can see a different perspective. So, all the more reason why having those discussions with her is very, very important so that a different view, a different perspective can be achieved. And most important, as Swami said once, God is the glue that keeps the marriage together. Because when that honeymoon part of the marriage finishes and you have to deal the nitty-gritty of getting along day by day in a harmonious way, only the power and presence of God will give you the wherewithal to really make that happen. And brother, in my case, I'll tell you, my wife has been my stabilizing force. She's been my rock. She's been my inspiration. And I have to say that all that I am and ever hope to be is partly and mostly because of her. And I'll share this little dream I had when I just got married, because I never wanted to get married. But Swami insisted, and I followed the guru's instructions. And one day I had a dream where I was ascending ladders to heaven. And when I got to the top of the ladder, my wife was there, and she took my hand and she placed it in Swami's hand. So I normally make a joke now whenever I do messages, and I said, husbands, listen to your wives, they will take you to heaven.
Oh my God. Wisdom invested forever. Sir, I'll remember that. Wisdom invested forever. So lovely. And then most important thing you touched is where never take each one for granted. Many times, we had a lot of arguments on, because, we take people forever for granted. That's, I think we should be careful. The next most important point you touched, which all of us I think should remember, is whatever happens that day should be forgotten after the sunset. you know Everything within that after that, because what happens is, in such arguments we always come out by saying this: he 5 years back you quoted that, 10 years back you quoted that. So once you forget on each day after the sunset, I don't think you will have an opportunity to quote whatever has happened before. That's beautifully. Yes, sir. I think both husband and wife should have very clear understanding and compromise. You beautifully mentioned about compromise. It's possible that there are certain things which I like and my spouse may not like, and it's vice versa. So sometimes you have to compromise and be with them so that they are happy. That's a beautiful way of bringing out your inherent human values when you're dealing especially with spouse, and after almost 15, 20 years of married life. Beautiful. Well said, sir. Thank you so much.
And brother, just to add on one additional point as you were talking, we should so have the awareness and understanding of each other that if we know that if I do a particular thing, this will make my wife angry or she will be disappointed, we must not do those things both ways. Simple example: if when you're brushing your teeth, there sometimes one party may not cover back the toothpaste cap, and that might cause a little conflict in the home, in the sense that every time you use the toothpaste you don't cover it back, it can be a source of irritation. So being aware of those things that can irritate and cause conflict, let us try beforehand to make sure and practice it so that we minimize those conflicts and we promote the unity and the harmony.
Patience. Lovely. That's a human value. Patience. Have patience with them and understand them. Beautiful. These are the lovely human values that we have to, practice in order to have a very good relationship. Now that we have talked about ourselves, our children, our elders, and spouse, how to deal with them, and all that. So we should always that's why the heading says consciously apply, in our day-to-day life. But I would like to you to share with us, how do we evaluate ourselves whether we are exhibiting these human values continuously and we are playing our role very well? How do we consciously check ourselves whether we are progressing or we are coming down? How do we check ourselves?
Well, brother, there are ways and means that are available that we can achieve that goal. I think one of them, as Swami had said in a message, is doing a self audit. So at the beginning of the day, when you get up, you thank Bhagwan, you offer gratitude and appreciation for your eyes opening on another day to love all and serve all. And you try to practice that during the course of the day. But when you're going back to sleep now, you do that self audit. You go back into your daily activities and you see where you have erred or where you made a mistake or where things could have been done differently. Maybe I could have reacted in a less angry way, or I could have offered more love here or I could have given more than I gave. So when you do that self audit, it leads you to identifying those areas that need more attention in your life, so that every day in every way I am getting better and better. So that self audit at the end of the day is a very good mechanism, so that there's continuous improvement. And as Baba says, his greatest miracle is that personal transformation. And as you said, we are doing this consciously now. We are making a conscious effort to be better every additional day. So that self audit will help to achieve that end. I've also known of persons who use a spiritual diary where they document, they write down their activities, their challenges, the things that went well, the things that didn't go well, where we need to put some more attention to. People write it down, and that is a way of doing a self audit on yourself. Then, even within the home, if you're looking at within the home, there's something called personal observation. And this can happen between children and parents. So parents might, if a particular child, let's say, has a bad habit of eating sweet or not making up their beds, and the parents tell them, "Well, I'm going to be observing you now." So that personal observation, where you observing but not necessarily telling the child anything, that is a way in which you can have an audit done for improvement where the child is concerned. So that observation is very good. Also, you can also have that personal observation being done between spouses, helping one another to become better. And I remember Swami saying that every day you should try to be more loving, more kind, more compassionate, less angry, less confrontational, less criticizing. And sometimes in the home, you could have somebody who is observing that. So let's say for a particular day or week, you normally get angry 6 or 7 times. Somebody like your spouse or another member can say, "Well, this week I noticed that the frequency of your anger has diminished." So somebody from the outside also can be someone who can gauge or make an assessment and give you an audit in terms of your progress, because sometimes you are not able to see from within yourself how far you are progressing. So feedback from others is a way to of you doing a little audit on yourselves. And then in the home, as highlighted in my little incident with my child going through the red light, sometimes your children are your greatest gurus. They pull you up when you don't do what you say you're doing, or you're not showing a good example. They are the first ones to tell you, "Daddy, this is what you did. You should not have done that. That is not good." So these are ways, different people doing different things to help you improve your conduct and behavior along the way. So individual self audit, personal diaries, personal observation, feedback from others, and most importantly, your children can be your greatest gurus.
Thank you so much, sir. Beautiful. Because I hope you would appreciate that we have to do these self-evaluations continuously so that we improve further. So beautifully you said, and you gave us a lot of avenues and opportunities where we can check ourselves whether we are really progressing in the right direction or not. So beautifully said that. So we are coming to almost the end of our chat session. Would you like to sum it up and say how human values are so important and so valuable, especially coming from Swami? Would you like to sum up and give us your feedback?
So, brother, Swami has said that the way the world is going to be transformed is through the practicing of human values. And the practicing of human values is direly needed at every level. Swami has a beautiful saying: if there is righteousness in the heart, there will be beauty in the character. When there's beauty in the character, there will be harmony in the home. When there is harmony in the home, there will be order in the nation. When there's order in the nation, there will be peace in the world. So human values is the key, is the vehicle which the whole world can become a better place, a more valued place, a more loving place. And that is why when he speaks about educare being the Veda of the 21st century, educare simply bringing out that which is already latent within us. And when Swami speaks about awakening the inherent divinity, when you awaken those that inherent divinity, it manifests itself in those five fundamental human values of truth, right action, peace, love, and non-violence. And those values, it drives, it motivates, it inspires our behavior to behave good, do good, be good, and see good. And I remember Swami also saying that the two most important components of persons to inculcate values, not so much inculcate, but to be the facilitator to awaken and allow them to blossom forth, are teachers and parents. There's a beautiful saying: no written word, no spoken plea can teach young minds what men should be, nor all the books on all the shelves, but what the teachers are themselves. Swami says if one student in a class is bad, that is not so bad. When one teacher is bad, generations of children will become bad. So if we have good parents and we have good teachers, we are going to have good students, and then we're going to have a good nation. So, in summary, brother, practicing the human values is vitally important. As Swami once said too, there's too much talk and too little practice. He says when it comes to talking, we are heroes. When it comes to putting it into practice, we are zeros. This is why I love the Nike advertisement. Just do it. So let us be heroes in practicing the values, walking the talk, being the change, being the example. Because in 1986, he says the best way to teach human values is to live it. So let us go out there and be the change, manifest those human values, and that is a way in which we can influence change in others to bring about a better and a more value based society. I want to thank Bhagwan for the opportunity that he has given to share his words, his perspective. I thank him for this opportunity, and I pray that all of us will continue to make a difference to make the society a better place. Jai Sai Ram.
Sairam, so much, sir. When you said practice harmony in the family and there'll be harmony in the society. Today, you had beautifully given us how to be harmonious or be in harmony in the family. We'll certainly, going forward, we'll have an opportunity to again chat with you how to be harmonious in the society and with the world. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Sairam.
Jai Sai Ram.
Jai Sairam.